This is Public Advocate, and I'm Shirley Graves. Our show for you tonight, this month, is Whistlestop, which should remind everyone of the wonderful service in San Rafael that this organization provides to all older people. My guests are the CEO, Joe O'Hare, and the Development and Marketing Director, Yvonne Roberts. We will have two other guests later on that will talk about specific classes that they deal with and volunteer work. There is a lot going on there, and we're going to do our best to inform our audience. I suppose most people have seen the Whistlestop buses and station wagons and whatnot going around the county, and know that they do provide rides for many people for many reasons. Let's hear about your transportation program, because I'm sure you serve everyone with that.
Great, good. Well, thank you, Shirley. Thank you for allowing us to come on your program and to provide a good insight into Whistlestop and our organization. This is our 59th year of service to the community. We were founded in 1954 by a group of volunteers who were concerned about Marin's older adults and how they could live independently in their homes. And we find now 54 years later, or 59 years later, that are still the same challenges, such as transportation that you mentioned, nutrition, and staying active and engaged in the community. So we serve over 5,000 older adults in Marin County. We're one of the largest nonprofits. And we also coordinate and collaborate with many of the other nonprofit agencies, very valuable nonprofit agencies in Marin, to really, we believe that every adult in Marin should have the opportunity to age with independence, dignity, and grace in the community. And it takes a community to really make that happen. So you mentioned transportation. Most people always say they've seen a Whistlestop bus at some point in the day throughout Marin. And we have over 55 vehicles that are on the road. That's why you see them.
That's why they see them.
We provide over 150,000 rides to people in the community that need to get somewhere where they do not have access or the ability to get out of their homes. We provide what is called paratransit services. And that's a fancy word for really special needs transportation for people that can't access our public transit services here in Marin County. We contract with Marin Transit, which is our local transit agency, as well as Golden Gate Transit, which is our inter-county agency. And we shadow their buses with our special needs buses for people that cannot access public transportation. This actually is a Americans with Disabilities Act federal law that any public agency, public transit agency, has to provide this special needs transportation for those individuals that cannot access public transportation. So many of our rides originate in Marin, but we do take people into San Francisco, say for a doctor's appointment at UCSF. We go as far north as to Santa Rosa, where the Golden Gate Transit buses go, and also east over to Richmond. So most people use these rides for doctor's appointments, shopping appointments, being in connection with their families and friends. And it's a real help for the families, because many of the children of older adults or relatives are working, but mom or dad need to maybe go to a doctor's appointment on a Monday morning, and they can call Whistlestop and get that ride. The eligibility, they can call our number, 456-9062. If they are qualified and eligible to ride, we put them through an eligibility test, and they become registered in our Whistlestop information base. And then they can simply call when they need a ride. So say you have a doctor's appointment at Kaiser and Terra Linda, and you live, say, in Sausalito, which is a long haul for folks. They can just call, and they can call up to 24 hours the night before. And we can schedule a ride, and we'll pick them up at their house, and we go door-to-door service. So our very highly trained and skilled Whistlestop drivers will go to the door, help the individual to the bus, take them to Kaiser for their doctor appointment. They'll be dropped off, and then after their doctor appointment, they can have a ride home. So we really become a lifeline for people that do not have access to transportation, which, by the way, is the #1 issue when older adults are surveyed in Marin, is because of the way our communities are laid out.
Right.
They're lovely, but they're also very challenging if you don't
Right.
drive a car or you don't have access to a ride. So we've found that transportation is, as I mentioned, is the #1 issue, and it is what most people know Whistlestop for.
And we'll be giving that telephone number several times so that people can find their pencils and write it down, because we'll be telling you about many services that Whistlestop has for people.
Right. Also mention that we run our service 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. So whenever a public transit bus is running, everyone has access to a Whistlestop ride if they are qualified and eligible. It might be good to share a story with you of a typical rider, and we have a young man, David Rose, and I'm going to have Yvonne, who knows him pretty well, describe how he uses Whistlestop's transportation services.
Sure. Thanks, Joe. Well, this particular person, and we've been talking a lot about older adults and the services that we offer, but this particular service is for people that have disabilities, so they're of any age.
Oh, okay.
And this young man at 39 had a stroke and was unable to speak and unable to, use his legs the same way he used to. So he wasn't able to always be able to walk. So sometimes he had a motorized wheelchair and other times a walker. And he now uses our transportation service pretty much every day. He goes to see his son in his Taekwondo class, and he goes and he gets his groceries, and he's able to maintain an independent lifestyle, which is pretty fantastic after suffering a severe stroke several years ago.
And we have several stories, and I have to mention, Shirley, our Whistlestop drivers are the heart and soul of our organization. We have over 55 drivers, and many are retired and semi-retired, and they come and they get very well trained, because you're dealing with obviously a very delicate cargo and some special needs, and they go through rigorous safety checks. And we get lots of letters from families that said that without our drivers, that many of their relatives would not be able to enjoy this beautiful community we live in. And they really are the heart and soul of our organization. And many of them do this out of the kindness of their heart. They certainly are paid drivers, but they are really there, as we find, to really be very dedicated, because they know that without us, these folks would be lonely and isolated in their environments. So they really are the heart and soul of the organization.
And they're all trained in CPR and first aid.
Yep, there he is. And obviously, as we have, as Yvonne mentioned, a very different variety of clients that we really obviously do need our services, and our drivers are always well prepared in case anything happens to one of our passengers. So they do very well. I also want to mention that we're working with Marin Transit on really making more transportation options available to older adults and people with disabilities. Many times people may not qualify for this paratransit service. So we've initiated a volunteer driver program, which allows us to match volunteers, say a neighbor who might be able to give one of their neighbors a ride, and we help select them and put them together, because that way at least we're taking 2 people and putting them into 1 car, so we're getting 1 less car maybe on the roads in Marin. And this program has really taken off over the last 2 years. It's another option, and it can help out with many of our clients. And another good example is Virginia, and maybe you could mention how Virginia uses our volunteer driver program.
Absolutely. Virginia is another one who, a lovely older woman, she's actually 90, and she lost her vision. And so through this program, we call it the STAR program, which is the Safe Transport and Reimbursement, because what the program does is it reimburses the volunteer that you find. So she's got several neighbors that she uses, and then she submits their mileage each month, and then she's able to reimburse them for that ride.
Oh my.
And this was funded through Measure B, which was the fee
vehicle
on
tax license.
On vehicle registrations.
Oh my.
And the reason we offer this is we found that many older adults don't like, if you ask, do they need help, they say, no, I'm fine. And so by them being able to offer mileage reimbursement to their neighbor, they feel better that they're not just taking something for free.
Oh, that's good. That's
so
good.
we found it as a way to help the older adults ask for the help that many of them don't want to ask. They're very proud, and we're all they want to remain independent. But this STAR program allows them to say, I can reimburse you, and it gets them to do the ask, where most people would give them a ride anyway.
That's good. That's
which
good.
is good. So,
that's good. Well, I know that another thing that you're very that's very important to your program is food. In many descriptions of food, we I had your food at one point last month. I shared a lunch at the Jackson Cafe, which is on site at Whistlestop, and I assure you, it is quite a nice idea to eat there. So let's discuss your you have. Meals on Wheels, you deliver groceries. Tell us something about that service that you do.
I'm more than happy to. It turns out that in addition to transportation for older adults, particularly individuals that live alone, nutrition is the next biggest need. Obviously, many of our older adults raised families and prepared large dinners for families, but when they become single or alone, living alone, it's kind of tough for them just to have the energy and the drive to maybe prepare a meal. And nutrition is very important at any age, and it's specifically very important at an older age as we fight chronic illnesses and other things we face. So we, as you mentioned, sort of the centerpiece of our nutrition program has been the Jackson Cafe, which was named after H.C. Jackson, who was the founder of Jackson's Hardware in San Rafael. And he and his wife Beverly were very generous philanthropically, and H.C. had read in the paper that he heard that older adults were hungry, and he, as a child, had faced hunger, and he said that he never wanted to have anyone have to be hungry. And so they made a very nice donation, which allowed us to renovate and create the Jackson Cafe, which is really a public restaurant as well as just for our older adult clients. So our older adult clients, and you were a guest there, you feel fairly warm and inviting.
Oh, it was
and it's
very good. Good food.
Yeah, exactly. And we partner with Homeward Bound. Homeward Bound is a nonprofit in Nevada that you're aware of that helps people in homeless transition, and one of the key programs they have is their New Beginnings, which is also a culinary school, which helps people in transition to gain a skill in working in a restaurant. So we partnered with Homeward Bound a little over 2 years ago, and so the benefit is that their students under the chef, Rocky Packard, they get to work in the Jackson Cafe and prepare this wonderful fresh food at an affordable price. And our clients, as older adults, get this wonderful food at an affordable price. So,
and all of us.
Yes, and I think it's these types of collaborations with nonprofits that can take both of their missions, theirs in helping people get into the workforce, and our job of getting older adults well nourished. It's those types of collaborations that are important in Marin's nonprofit landscape. So we've been very pleased with that. We serve about 100 meals a day, lunches, Monday through Friday, from 11:30 till 1:30. And we invite anyone to come down. It's a wonderful place and a wonderful venue. We also do special events. We have, in March, we have a St. Patrick's Day, which with my last name, I enjoy that immensely. And we also celebrate other multicultural customs through food, food is obviously always a very festive occasion there. You may want to talk about a couple of the clients that come in. I'm thinking of, I'm trying to remember her name. Marion. Marion. We'll talk about Marion, how Marion comes in. Yeah.
Oh, there's this lovely young, well, not young, older woman that comes in whose husband passed away, and her daughter found that she was just sitting at home each day, and when her daughter would come home from work, she found that her mother was there and had just been sitting alone in her apartment all day. So they brought her down to Whistlestop, and now she comes 5 days a week, and she hangs out and in our active aging center. She takes classes, she gets involved. She's made lots of new friends, and she comes into the cafe every day for lunch. And so it's always a pleasure to see her in there. We just celebrated her birthday a couple months ago, and so that was it's a real pleasure.
Well, she's that good a cook. I mean, I thought you were going to say that she was presiding over one of the ovens or something.
I wish she would. I wish she would.
And for those that can't come into the Jackson Cafe that may be housebound, we have our Meals on Wheels delivery program. And for the history of that, Whistlestop was providing the Meals on Wheels program to the county for about 15 years. And then it became a little bit financially challenging. So the county tried a couple of other contracts, but we were struggling to really find the right solution for Marin County. There's federal money that comes in from the federal government under the Older Americans Act. And it's based upon poverty levels. And certainly when you look at Marin, it doesn't get its fair share, although we do have the need. So we worked with the county this year to come up with an innovative partnership in where Whistlestop delivers the food and really works and checks in on the housebound clients. And there's an organization called Revolution Foods that prepares fresh foods, and they bring them to Whistlestop, and then we in turn deliver them to our clients. And we serve approximately 280 recipients around East and Central and Northern Marin. And our partner organization, West Marin Senior Services, serve those out in the Point Reyes area, so that they're also make sure that older adults out there are well nourished. We have been running the program since July. We use a combination of paid drivers, but also volunteer drivers. And the volunteer drivers really help us be able to keep this program going at the level that it needs to be. So I was wondering if Orville, we could maybe ask Orville to come in.
Yes, we have one of the drivers here, Orville Tysing?
Tysing.
And we're going to hear from him. Well, we've made a little change here. We now have on our program Orville Tysing. He is a Meals on Wheels driver, and he's going to share a story with us and some of the work that he does. Orville?
Oh, thank you, Shirley. Actually, this is timely in that I just finished my daily delivery of meals. Today I delivered meals to 40 seniors or older adults who are essentially homebound. Some because of age, some because of physical handicaps, and some because they are just have no money, and it's very difficult for them even to get out, much less to be able to afford to buy food. So what would you like to know?
Well, you just
talk about your typical day and.
Great. So I start out, and in the morning, this morning I delivered meals to 23 individuals. Some of them living in mobile homes, some of them older, living in lovely homes, but in their late 80s and 90s. And their life, the focus has narrowed to the point where, although some of them are sharp as a tack, it's difficult or impossible for them to get out because they just have physical limitations. So I'm thinking of one guy that I delivered to this morning. His name is Harry. And last week Harry announced that it was his 85th birthday coming up. So I said, Harry, 85. I said, what kind of wisdom do you have to tell me that you're 85? He said, well, I'm 85 and I can still dance my ass off. And I'm thinking, well, I mean, there's something to look forward to. I hope that I can do that when I'm 85. And then there's another fellow, Cliff is 97, is a retired San Francisco policeman who is still determined to live independently. So he lives in his home, he takes out the garbage, he does everything that he can. Sometimes he's a little unsteady, but a tough old guy, and we have a wonderful time talking about the old days and just telling jokes. So one of the things I think that's of value is, especially for older seniors who can't get out and who so they don't have access to social experience. I could just, you know, I see them, each one of them 3 times a week after week. They get to be friends.
Well, sure.
So we chat about this and about that. Some of my clients, one lady in particular, I'm thinking Rose, who's in hospice, living in the living room in a hospital bed. Just what a lady. Just living with dignity, and it's always I feel good when I leave because I'm seeing people who are struggling with being in the final chapters, as my wife says, when there's more sand in the bottom of the hourglass than in the top. But they're living noble, you know, existences. I admire many of them. I get so much out of the experience.
And you're making it all possible for them too, everything that you do.
Well, because for them it's delivering the meals and having some social interaction. And I was just so pleased to find Whistlestop and Joe and his program and be able to do this. And I know what it means to them.
Right.
As you know, Shirley, volunteers are a backbone of a nonprofit agency.
And you are a volunteer.
Yes,
Wow.
one of our long-standing volunteers, and we have over 120 volunteers that help do this important work that we do, and Orville's a great example of that, and it's been a lot to you. I mean, you've been really
it's a
enjoyed
win-win.
it. Yeah.
I get so much out of this. When I go home at night and sort of do my debriefing, invariably there are some wonderful stories to tell about things. Some of these people are to the point where they're so frail that they look like they would break in the wind. And you start to chat with their clear minds, and they have the most amazing stories about a life full of adventure and accomplishment, and some of them have done heroic things. And yet, if you were to see them in a room with other people, there'd just be this little sort of withered person in the corner. You would have no idea that this is someone who has lived an incredible life.
They ought to be encouraged to write a book or write their experiences.
Well, they should.
Yeah.
And I know Whistlestop has a program for people to write their life story.
Well, as you can see, we've made another little change at the end of the table. We're going to talk about what goes on at Whistlestop, and the person who knows the most about it, Mr. O'Hare, the CEO, is going to tell us about it and how this gentleman at the end of the table fits into it all.
Good. Thanks, Shirley. We mentioned the Jackson Cafe, which you had lunch, and we have the Active Aging Center there, where we have a variety of classes really to keep the body, mind, and spirit up and active for our older adults. And we have classes in the morning and in the afternoon. And they range from language classes, as was mentioned by our volunteer Orville, writing classes. But it's very important that we provide preventive health measures and programs for our older adults. And one of the areas that really affect older adults are falls and fall prevention. And we are very lucky at Whistlestop that the majority of our instructors for our active aging classes and activities are volunteers. And it's my pleasure now to introduce Tom Attardi, who is our volunteer who teaches our balance class, which really helps older adults deal with a very challenging part of their life. And maybe, Tom, you could tell us about how your class goes and the type of clients that you serve.
Yes. I love teaching at Whistlestop. It's because there's such a variety of people that come to the classes, actually, and they offer such a delight of experiences that I really enjoy, and everyone else does as well in the class. But the thing that I stress most in the class is basically having fun while they're strengthening their balance. It's very important for that to happen, because you know, simply just standing and walking upright on 2 legs requires a great deal of balance, a great deal of complex coordination of muscle systems in the body. And what I teach basically is learning a lot about the 3 body systems that have directly to do with balance and stabilization, and how one can actually restore the balance. You know, falls are not inevitable. They actually can become very preventable if people would just be more serious about seeing that they can actually strengthen their body and strengthen their stabilization to help restore their balance. I've had a person in my class about a year ago who was 92 years old. And her balance was very, very bad. And she was very diligent in doing the training and doing her exercises, not only in the classes, but also at home. And one day I came to class, and she stood in the middle of the room, and she says, "Tom, look at this." And she stood on one leg. And I went, "Oh my God." And so as I was ready to take my seat, and she goes, "No, I'm not even finished yet." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "Look." And then she closed her one eye, and she was still standing on one leg.
Wow.
And I just said, "Wow." And we all applauded in the class. It was just a wonderful experience to see what diligence and that no matter how old you are, that it really, you can restore your balance. Because as we know, the high rate of admissions in hospitals has to do with falls. And so it's a very serious thing, and I take it very seriously. But like I said, at the same time, we have fun as we're strengthening the body systems that have to do with balance. Yeah.
Well, that's great, and that just shows, you mentioned you have a variety of age that come into the classes. And
yes, yes, we have people sometimes in their late 20s, all the way up into the mid-90s, actually. People that have had auto accidents, people that have problems with their vision and problems with their hearing. And I always tell them what's tremendous about the body systems is that if there's a decline of your eyes or your vision and your hearing, you can develop a strength of touch, your proprioception, that can compensate for the loss of the other 2. So that's why it's really important to emphasize that. So people don't feel like, oh, well, there's nothing that anyone can do for me. Yes, there is a lot that can be done.
That's wonderful what you're doing.
Sounds like you enjoy your work, and
I
you
love
enjoy as a volunteer, and it's really a perfect example. Tom is a great example of the instructors we have, from balance classes to computer classes. We have, which is one of the most popular, to dance and music, and our whole mission there is to keep people active and safe and healthy. And Tom is just a great example of why we're able to do what we do at Whistlestop due to our volunteers. So.
And they all seem happy about it.
Yeah, they are good.
It is. It's a wonderful
That's
experience.
just great, though. That's just, we want to get out to the public, if they don't already know, about the wonderful things that you do.
Good. Thank you, Tom.
Oh,
Thank you.
you.
Good. We've heard a lot about our programs and activities at Whistlestop. We felt it'd be good to show you a brief video clip of what it's like in a day in the life of a Whistlestop client. Here it is.
Life may surprise you too and reach my age of 90, which today seems to be so much more common. Without Whistlestop transportation, I would be in trouble because I do need them very much. I lead a German conversation group, which I started approximately 1 year ago. The best part are the people. I do enjoy the people very much. And of course, I take advantage of the lunchroom when I'm here. Everybody gets older, and everybody needs help one way or another eventually.
Well, we've made another change here in our guest list here. We're going to finish telling you about the wonderful classes and activities at Whistlestop, and the CEO, Joe O'Hare, will fill us in on a few more wonderful ideas that they have going on there.
Great. Thanks, Shirley. And as you saw in the video clip and you've heard from our volunteers, we have a lot of activities. And one of the most important things for older adults and their families is to get the information about these wonderful programs and activities. We publish every year a directory of older adult activities and services. It's sort of the yellow pages of older adult services in Marin County that families use. We also have our Whistlestop Express newsletter that goes out to over 25,000 households that help on a monthly basis really inform older adults and their families what activities and programs and classes and subjects that we find are very important to our older adults. So we want to keep them active and engaged in the community, and these publications and information are available. We also have a help desk at Whistlestop that folks can come in. We work if people have interest or needs in any legal services. The Marin Legal Aid will come in and help out on a pro bono basis. Getting to be around tax return time this time of year, we help older adults with their tax returns. Anything we can do to make their lives easy at this point in transition. I also want to mention that we have a lot of multicultural programs at Whistlestop. We have in Central San Rafael a very ethnically diverse population of older adults. We have clubs. We have a Persian club. We have a Spanish club. We have a Russian club. We have a German club, which allows our older adults to honor their cultural heritage in a very safe and warm environment. And there's a lot of laughter and a lot of enjoyment on the parts of the clients that come in and participate in these multicultural clubs. So our present is in good shape, and we certainly have an interesting future ahead, which you and I were talking about.
Yes. Actually, we're going to touch a little bit on that future. It was very well covered in the Pacific Sun and in other publications recently. They're going to be making some big changes to the building and to their major services. So let's hear a little bit about that.
Good. Well, as many may know, the SMART train is coming to town. It will be starting probably operation in 2015 or 2016. And for those that know, the train will run from Santa Rosa down to downtown San Rafael. And the downtown San Rafael station just so happens to stop right in front of the Whistlestop building. And when I joined 4 years ago as the CEO, I realized that we were going to have a new neighbor at some point. And we started to take a look at the impact it might have on our building and our ability to provide the active aging services that we've been describing today to everyone. We had to start to look at the impact on the east side of our building, which was parking and access to the building. And so what we first did was work with the city of San Rafael and the SMART people, the trained people, to really say what impact would this have. And the city of San Rafael did a station area plan to kind of plan for this new station and new form of transportation to come down. And we've been at that, Whistlestop has been at that site since 1971. And it's an excellent location because we're right next to all the hub of transportation, the Bettini Transit Center, and now eventually the train, and walkability to downtown San Rafael. So at first we thought we might have to relocate because we really couldn't find an immediate solution. But the more we looked at locations, we kept saying that this was the ideal location for our clients and for Whistlestop. We also know that many of our clients come and spend a wonderful day at Whistlestop, but then have to return to an apartment, say some in one of the other rural areas or suburban areas, and they would like to be able to stay in this area and have a community. And we know the growing need for affordable housing for seniors. So what we decided to do was take the challenge of the SMART train location and turn it into an opportunity for the community. And we've created a vision concept called the Whistlestop Renaissance Project that, as you mentioned, has been covered in the press lately, where we're going to take our location and redevelop our site and not only have Whistlestop's Active Aging Center stay there, but we've come up with a design concept They'll allow us to build 50 units of affordable housing for seniors.
Wow.
So that they can live in a transit-oriented development community and have the ability to walk downtown and have the same services that they enjoy day in and day out. And it'll be a nice, livable community for our older adults. We are in the process of picking a nonprofit housing partner to run the housing part. Our expertise is transportation and nutrition and keeping our older adults active. And we want to find that right partner to really do the affordable housing. So we're talking to some of the leading nonprofit housing organizations, and we'll be selecting one of them towards the end of January. And we really believe, Shirley, that this is a model of the future for older adults, because if they live down there, then they won't need their cars. They'll have all the transportation they need. They'll have the Jackson Cafe.
Just go downstairs.
Yeah, and they'll have a community environment, which really helps combat the loneliness and isolation.
And
that many
safety.
people do.
So much more safety built into something like that.
So we're very excited about the project. We've had good endorsement by the city of San Rafael, particularly Mayor Gary Phillips. Also, Supervisor Steve Kinsey has been very supportive with his interest in transportation and older adults. It's going to be a long project, as you know.
Yes.
These take quite a while. It'll be about a 5-year project. Our goal is to stay there and to really create an environment down there and a community environment for our older adults, not only from what we've been doing, but allowing them to be able to live in a very safe community and enjoy this wonderful county that we live in.
And they're so close to shopping and all kinds of services that they can get just stepping out the door. That's just a wonderful idea.
Right, good.
Well, is there anything, you know, we should be giving the telephone number again if someone wants any further information on the services, and that's 456-9062. And there is a website which covers pretty much what we've talked about today at whistlestop.org. And maybe you could kind of sum up.
Well, and I think it's wonderful. Thank you for having us on. It's been, we live in a very wonderful, affluent community, but we have to remember that our older adult population struggles with some of the daily needs of living, and it really takes the entire community, and it's a shared responsibility that we all have to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to age with independence, dignity, and respect within this wonderful community that we live. And that's what Whistlestop does, and we do it only through the support of our donors and our volunteers. And as you and I were talking before, we have one of our events coming up, which is the Marin Valentine's Ball. It was started by our dear friend Hal Brown 17 years ago, that raises money for not only Whistlestop, but Sunny Hills Services, North Bay Children's Center, and the Godmothers of Timothy Murphy School for Boys. It's on February 9th. We have a gala, and it raises wonderful for these safety net services that we desperately need in Marin, and we encourage people to come and enjoy it and support all 4 organizations.
Well, that's just wonderful. I'm glad we got a mention of that, and that has become a Marin County institution.
It has, yes, it has.
So please watch Public Advocate. We are on again this whole month with our Whistlestop story. For anyone who may have missed it, it's on in Novato on Channel 26 every Wednesday night at 8 and every Saturday morning at 10. And in San Rafael and the rest of Marin, it's over Marin Channel 26 on the 4th Wednesday every month at 9 p.m. and the next afternoon at 3 p.m. So for Public Advocate, and thank you to Mr. O'Hare and all of his fine volunteers and employees who were on the show with us. Good night.
Thank you.